Welcome to Between Two Clinicians, the podcast that gives you a backstage pass into the mind of two therapists. I'm Talia.
I'm Adam Luke. We've spent years helping others navigate the complexities of their minds and relationships.
In this podcast, we're flipping the script, and we're sharing our own unfiltered insights. No topic is off limits, and no issue too taboo. We're ready to tackle the tough stuff with honesty and empathy. Let's dive in.
Well, hello, everyone. How are we doing? Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Between Two Clinicians.
I'm Talia.
I'm Adam, and we are here to have a conversation about seasonal age regression. Now,
It sounds like one of those commercials where it's like Vraylar, or I probably shouldn't say brand names, but whatever name, that it's like seasonal age regression. So I want to just make that note before I lose it. As
yeah, because everyone's like, "What do I need my
my inhaler for this?
Do I need my what do I get? How do I stay away from it? Right? You need to mask up. Masking up will help you with seasonal age regression. This is actually that period of time where we're getting towards the end of the year, and all of a sudden you're going to be going home. You're going to be seeing your parents, that uncle you can't stand, and that aunt you've never been able to connect with. And get ready to walk in the door as a 30-something-year-old, but find yourself sitting down as a 15-year-old. All of a sudden, people are giving you all of the opinions about your life that you've never asked for. And you have also wondered, why am I yet doing this again?
Like we've had this conversation. Home for the holidays, suddenly 15 again. Why we feel 12, you're 31, but your mom tells you to put on a sweater. We joked off air that it's like the boomer parents who are like, babies need socks. Yes, I agree. And sometimes, but it's like this prevailing over-functioning or inability to see as somebody for the age that they are. So I don't know if I coined it, but I'm going to assume, if nobody else takes credit, that I coined it, that it's this like temporary regression or a visit or time travel back to the past of a younger emotional or behavioral state, often triggered by returning home for the holidays or being around your family of origin for any extended period of time, especially during times of high emotion or high tradition, which are typically the holidays that we see towards the end of the year. But this could happen at any point, because that concept of age regression is, I am an adult. Now I find myself feeling or being treated like, so whether it comes from me or externally to me, there's an interaction pattern that I'm not an adult, essentially is it. And we're going to dive into today's episode why that happens and how to get yourself out of it as much as you can without leaving entirely. So I'll pass it back to you.
Oh, I appreciate that. The way that I've termed it with another client that I've been working with these last few weeks is don't cosplay the role your family wants you to play. Because it ends up being a process where you step back into, again, you open that door, you walk in as a fully functioning adult, and then many times you're offered roles to play, right? And so it's interesting because every family has its own tradition. And, is it your role to go into the kitchen? Is it your role to go into the den? Is it your role to sit and listen to the wisdom? Or is it, you have even the ability to speak to one another as colleagues? And a lot of times what I'll hear is, it's not that people don't enjoy spending time with their family. They just don't enjoy how they're spending time with their family. Like,
correct. Yes. The how.
Yes. And
Definitely.
so there's the need for you to actually speak up and for you to actually articulate the reality and the relationship you want within that family structure. So be aware who pulls in the driveway. Why do I all of a sudden sort of take off my jacket and my empowerment?
Yes, right. I hang my scarf and my dignity. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right there on the goat rack. Yeah. The psychology behind why this happens relates to family systems theory. It also relates to when we treat substance use. There's a chart of dysfunctional family roles, the scapegoat, the hero, the peacemaker, the lost child. If you Google dysfunctional family system chart, it's like one of the first images that pops up for anybody curious about it. We all function, there's varying degrees of function in every family system. And if we do fall more on the dysfunctional side of things, once you see the chart, you realize like, oh, like you're saying, oh, this is my role. It doesn't need to be these titles. It could be, I'm the court jester. I'm the one who brings the stuffing. And I'm the one who, if the kids need someone to play with and the parents are tired, right? It could be different roles. It doesn't just have to be these roles, but there's a regression within this family system to potentially your own inner child, like the system is actually functioning but you're regressing. And when unresolved family dynamics and expectations are clashing, and unmet expectations especially are clashing, that is usually when we see seasonal age regression. That this experience of, I want to remain in my adult self, I want to act for my adult self and set these boundaries. Why is this a struggle? Can be, I don't have the skills. I know it here and I can do it in every other area of my life, but for some reason, family system runs deep. That's the reason. And we have attachment patterns, and we have, like we talked about previous episode, these invisible loyalties and these subconscious collusions that we have with certain family members of, but I have to do this, these core beliefs. But if I don't, then this happens. And in therapy, we get to help clients face that fear. Okay, and so what if that happens? And they're like, oh, I could never. Like, you mean I'm allowed to say that thing? And I'm like, yeah, you're allowed to say the thing as an adult you probably wish that you said when you were 13, which is why you feel 13 as an adult, because teenage you is like, hey, lady, like you're an adult now. You can finally speak up and say it. But if we don't have that fortitude or belief or literally knowing what to say, how can I do it? That's where I think the age regression is stuck in a feedback loop. I don't know your thoughts on that.
I definitely agree with what you're saying, because what we do is we end up getting stuck in that feedback loop where all of a sudden everything feels like it's validating itself, but it's almost like we're starting from a faulty equation.
Right.
And a lot of times the faultiness of the equation is, I have no autonomy or power to change anything. Like, you don't have the power to change your parents, right?
Correct.
Or other individuals.
Yes.
They show up in however way they wish to present and show up.
Correct.
But you absolutely have influence and power in how you participate, and it's interesting because I had a comment on one of my last videos where people were like, well, it sounds like you're selfish and you'll just leave every situation, right? Like you can't just oh, I'm not going to participate and run away.
Watch me.
Yeah, exactly. What's the difference from escapism and blah, blah, blah?
Oh, I love the internet philosophers.
Oh, it was interesting because sort of having some banter back and forth with this individual, their whole sort of construct of relationships was rooted in a base allowance of obligation, like having to, right? So like, yeah, I feel a lot of anxiety with my first time parents going into the holiday season because they don't know what to do, right? Like, we've got sleeping schedules, we've got feeding schedules, people are meeting at 2:30, 4 o'clock. That's normally a nap time.
Nap times.
What are we going to do? There's travel, there's all this. And I just asked, I was like, have you ever thought of calling and saying to people, what would be good for you? Well, no, we've always done it at 2:30.
Blind follow tradition, yeah.
Exactly. But there's also the aspect of like, but there's new people coming to the
How
table.
does your family grow and continue the tradition if they're not bringing in new members? Like, they have to budge at some point, yes.
Just like, I mean, from what points you're bringing up, we also need to realize, like, if I start bringing around a significant other, things are going to change.
Oh, yeah.
And they have to.
They have
Otherwise,
to. Yes.
Like, we're stuck in this very rigid system where you become like, it's parasitic. You do what we say you do, or we don't treat you with respect. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, and the system wouldn't grow. It would continue to atrophy. So I think there's a push-pull generationally that also can influence the seasonal age regression feelings. Like the if you're thinking about, like, can you please stop saying that term? Like, what does it actually feel like? The feeling powerless or defensive that you mentioned, like, I can't make a change. especially around your parents, finding
Mm.
yourself using old coping mechanisms, shutting down, rebelling, oversharing, yelling. Maybe you pick up smoking again. I've heard a lot of sometimes maladaptive coping skills. You pour the extra glass of wine. It can look like over apologizing or people pleasing. And then that's why if you have your partner with you, they're like Four Christmases, The Family Stone, Christmas Vacation, all those movies perfectly portray. We're like, who are you right now? Like, why are you using that weird ass
Mhm.
tone? Like, what's going on? Reverting to whatever you did as a teenager. Door slamming, sarcasm. You're not your best self. You're not your adult self. There's just something about this dynamic. Again, chicken or the egg. Did your parents trigger in you, or
Mm.
did you not do enough? This is not shaming when I say this. Did you not do
No.
enough prep in terms of like, this might be tougher than I imagined? Just asking that question is all the prep you need. Did you trigger yourself inadvertently by not doing some energetic work? I am an adult. Here's how I want to maintain my adult image. And then the last one that we see, I think, as a symptom is seeking approval or dreading disapproval on the other end of the spectrum.
Mm.
That can be another symptom, to your point, when systems try to grow. If all of these are at play with multiple family members regressing or attempting to progress, but others going, no, 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 your progression threatens me. So I need you to regress back to where I'm at because I don't want to go where you want to go. It's a nightmare, as we can as we've lived personally and as professionally. We not only have to imagine but live with probably week to week and the weeks leading up to all of these holidays.
Yeah, I love how you're bringing in the family systems theory because also,
Mhm.
like, I use a lot of IFS with individuals. So I
Yes,
think that this
yes.
is also really important. You might be trying to orient yourself to every experience with your family from a family systems theory. It's not a bad thing, but I
Yeah.
don't think that it's helpful from the jump because we first have to identify what parts of us are being engaged.
Right.
And so, I mean, sometimes you can recognize sort of the experience you're about to have based off of what parts of you are engaged getting ready. You know,
Yes.
like
Yes.
I
So
want you to
true.
speak to those parts of you that you might be experiencing dread or
Mhm.
frustration.
Mhm.
I had a really emotional session the other day where someone was articulating they were heartbroken by the thought process of melancholiness when they were thinking
Mm,
about going home
mm,
for the holidays. And I think it's important for us to tease those things out because that's where we get back to that age regression. How young does that thought feel? How old does
yes.
that thought feel?
Yes. Yes.
Where did it get triggered? I had another individual that just disclosed the other day, hey, December has always been a month of loss for our family. That's where most of the deaths in our families have happened,
Mhm.
or the massive traumas in our family have happened.
Mhm.
That's important to navigate because as you're getting ready, I can already feel that person armoring up for December, right?
Mhm.
And instead of a process of experiencing holidays and building family memories, there's more of a focus on can we survive it,
Mm.
right? Like how
Yeah.
much of you is actually present when you show up to the dinner table in your night
Mhm.
outfit?
Mhm.
You've got
Mhm.
all the armor and
Yep.
chainmail you can get,
Yep. Yep.
and then we're surprised that there's a lack of intimacy, just emotional intimacy that's there. You're
Mhm.
not there to receive it.
Right. Right. And there's, I think, a Four Christmases depicts it really well with Vince Vaughn and Reese Witherspoon. That in the beginning they're both giving so many excuses. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to ruin it. So mute this part of the episode because I'm not going to stop myself. They both make excuses to their families so they don't have to spend the holidays around their families.
Mhm.
And then one Christmas they get snowed in and it's on the news and their families call and they have no choice but to face it and end up at Four Christmases because both their parents are split and or remarried. So it highlights very cinematically what it's like in
Mm.
family systems and in blended families. So that can be comforting and humorous all in itself. It does, I think, a great job of portraying a lot of what couples hope to or individuals hope to avoid having to face once they grow
Mm.
up and get out of the house and individuate. Ideally, not everybody who grows up and moves out is individuated. We've seen families that struggle with enmeshment. So simply like having your own place and have your own
Mm,
job does not mean you've emotionally done the work to like cut the cord energetically from your family of origin, whether that's also your family wants to reattach the umbilical cord or you're the one
mm,
that's like, no, mom and dad, like we need to keep this attached. Again, whichever way it's going, I avoid this if I don't have to put my partner and I in the not harm's way, but if I can safeguard myself or safeguard my
mm,
partnership to not have to be exposed to what I feel like I had to escape or grow out of, then maybe we have a chance at making it. Except if the
mm,
unit within the system is going to have a chance at making it, it has to at least have some near experiences, right, orbiting in or near the system. It doesn't have to be as frequent as maybe the tradition states. I agree, right? Let's say
mhm,
there's a system there, do every single holiday together, and they're blending with the system that just does Easter and
mm,
Christmas or Hanukkah and 4th of July, let's say.
yeah.
We can compromise on this. The compromise has to
Mm,
come first with the individual. What am I willing to and unwilling to put up with? How do I stay assertive and not regress? And how do we as a unit, if we're a dyadic couple, how do we as a unit have similar levels of individuation and not topple over and become so lopsided
mm,
around these points of, oh, you haven't done as much work as I thought you have. And I will never forget one birthday dinner. I will keep it brief. One birthday dinner. I know how my family system functions and is dysfunctional. I own it. I've been in therapy for 20, literally, not hyperbolic, 20 years of my life at this point. I got it on lock. I can't control them. I can't change them. All I can do, as you've said, is I know how to interact with them and I know what to do and not do. It was
yeah.
fairly early on with my ex. I've mentioned this story before. I think it was my mom wanted some kind of mac and cheese, something, whatever else. The server's like, we don't have it. And she's like, but I was really hoping for it. I'm like, your disappointment's not going to magically make it appear, whatever it was, or whatever meal she wanted. And my ex was like, well, I'll
I
give you some of
see.
mine. Yeah, but I want, and I said, you will not be sharing. And he's like, what? It's just mac and cheese. I'm like, it is not just mac and cheese.
That's my favorite Talia story
Yeah,
because I
it,
remember that
it is
it
not.
is not
It is not just
mac and
mac and
cheese.
cheese. Whatever, we take our pictures. You can see the tension in my face by the end of the night because I just want to go the fuck home with him at the time because we were getting along. Obviously, it was not what it was when it ended. And I remember walking to the car after the restaurant, and that's the best sign of individuation. We're getting ahead to the tips of how to get past. Drive yourself. I've learned that with my brother to drive to
Oh yeah.
family functions, just the two of us. So it's not the same family car ride, whatever.
Don't
Whose
allow
idea
yourself to
was
get
it to drive in
obligated.
a tin death machine and having arguments on holidays and traffic is beyond me. But you can break that system. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I'm walking to the car with my ex. And he's like, the more I think we spend time together, the more I think I'll have your mom's back. And I was like, the fuck you will. And if you do, we're done.
The straight up Jason
Yes,
Bateman
yes.
response.
This is not specific to my mom. If my mom ever listens to this, it's not about her. This is about the linchpins in the dynamic. That could be easily said about a cousin, a brother, a sibling. It's not about
Hmm.
her. It was the behavioral representation of where the system was at the
Oh yeah.
time functionally. No, you will not be siding with what collusion would look like is going to cause a like disconnect between you and I as a
Yeah.
partner because that's going to topple us over, and there has to be a kind of hierarchy between you and I that like we're the new family system. That obviously is time for
I've
another
always shot
episode.
pretty straight and
Yeah,
told my clients
yeah.
if you want to sleep with your in-laws, that makes sense. But if you want to
Hmm.
sleep with
Your
your
spouse maybe,
spouse,
yeah.
I would probably not do it.
Yeah, I'd probably side with what your partner's telling you to
Yeah.
do and not, yeah. Yeah, if you want to sleep with your in-laws, be my guest. That's fucking weird, but we'll do what you got
Yeah.
to
Like
do.
you
Yeah,
do
like you said,
you.
yeah, I hope your I
2025. I
hope
ain't
your family
stopping
tree
people.
isn't a wreath. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of your best lines. So yes, I have dealt with this and that feeling of age regression. I easily could have slipped into, oh my gosh, you're so right. We should this and that. And I'm like, but no, like I would like to remain feeling like an adult and have attraction towards you as my
Hmm.
partner. So we will not be siding with the
No.
hierarchy that's going to destabilize us creating our own system. Again, lots of
Mm,
terminology there, but essentially supporting this idea as a unit, as a couple, you have to do the work
yeah.
before you walk in the door. How are we going to handle when you and I look at each other and go, is this the time that we need to leave? Or if I look to you and we had a deal and then you go, oh no, we should stay, you and I will be having words in the car in the drive home because you didn't follow through on your end of the deal and you regressed. back into the mama's boy, the daddy's girl, whatever the, colloquial terms are. So do your individual work, regardless of if you have a partner or not. And especially if you have a partner and you're facing this, please have a conversation, at least one, ideally in therapy, but at least one. This is what it looks like. Here's what I'm wanting. What are you wanting?
Yeah.
Talk about expectations before you learn that you had them when they went unmet, would be my advice. Hey there, listeners. Are you tired of settling for less than you deserve in your relationships? Do you ever feel like you're not being seen, heard, or valued the way that you want? Or maybe you've been wondering why you keep attracting the same kinds of people into your life, or why certain patterns seem to repeat themselves in your relationships. The answer might be deeper than you think, and you can find it in my new course. Rewire Your Relationships is a transformative course designed to help you stop settling for less than you deserve and start embodying your most confident, assertive, and authentic self in your relationships. You'll explore how your early experiences and parental influences have shaped your views on love, dating, and self-worth. This isn't just about tips and tricks for dating. It's about understanding the core beliefs that drive your relationships that you attract. You'll learn how to break free from those old patterns and start creating the kind of connections that truly reflect who you are. Imagine stepping into a relationship with clarity and confidence, knowing you're attracting people who value and respect you for who you really are, your deeply authentic self. The Rewire Your Relationship course gives you the tools to rewrite your relationship story, one where you're no longer settling, but thriving. Visit taliabombola.com/rewireyourrelationships or check the link in the show notes for more.
I mean, I think you did a masterful job at just articulating that if you try to wing it, all of a sudden those subconscious emotions, feelings, behaviors all fled to the forward. Why?
Yep.
Not because you're out of control, but because there's this aspect of if we're not intentional in how we're going to do something, it's going to be extremely sloppy. And it's sort of implementation. So like you said, it's amazing to me that most couples will have conversations after the fact about what they wanted to experience versus them proactively having conversations of what do we want to experience.
Yes. And if by the logic of you're going to regress in age, do you think your adult self's going to be having that conversation on the way home with your partner? Fuck no. Your 13-year-old self's going to be like, and this, and this, and this. And you can't hopefully not. You can't slam the car door while it's driving, literally or metaphorically. Why would you do this to yourself is the meta age regression. I'm worried about not being approved of. I'm worried about this relationship failing. A lot of your fears block you from tackling the necessary work of how am I going to remain in my adult self to the best of my abilities? How am I going to perceive when I'm slipping out of my adult self and use those coping skills to, as quickly as I can, go back into my adult self or take a break, go for a walk, get some fresh air, phone a friend. Ideally, we could show up to your Thanksgivings and be like, you've got this. I can't tell you enough how helpful having a set of headphones with you and going for a walk and listening to a podcast of your therapist, if you have one, or these episodes, have them saved. It's the adult version of the going on a walk for when you were in college, if you ever smoked.
Oh, yeah.
Right before you ate. This is the adult version of the healthy coping skill of clearing your head so you actually have an appetite for when you sit back at the table. So go for the walk, take your time, clear your head, get the coping skills, microdose back in live time. Like, oh, I needed that. You're right. Let me shake it off. And then you get to go back in and try again. And this is where learning assertive communication skills during the family time can help you just hear as much as you have to be like, oh my God, they're droning on this and that. Thanks, Mom. I got it. Or I understand, Dad. Sounds good. And we're not talking about being a people pleaser. We're talking about using assertive communication as a safety mechanism. If my goal is long-term to maintain DBT, long-term, I need to maintain this relationship, but I also have this competing objective of I don't want to be bulldozed. There may be a little need for a push on both gas pedals. Thanks, I've got it. And then they keep trying and you broken record technique. And then if you happen to regress, which would look like storming off, blowing up, whatever, at least you tried to be an adult first and didn't lead with, well, you know what? Sometimes we get pushed to that point, but the more you practice leading from your adult self, I believe the less likely you are to like decompensate into your teenage self. Trust me, people can be pushed, but you get pushed less when you go, okay, and just walk away. Just walk. It's one of the best skills you can learn. If a person doesn't want your effectiveness, just leave. for a little bit and try later if you can.
Create space, come back to it. Right?
Breathe,
Like,
just breathe. Get your nervous system back online. Yes.
yeah, have the conversations that you're present for, because a lot of us are
Mm-hmm.
having conversations that we are not present for.
100%.
And so, like, I think that to your point, it would be really important for us to also recognize that there's speed bumps in place, right? Like, I almost feel like there's guardrails there that we just don't pay attention to. You start to feel
Yes.
that tension build up.
Oh, yeah.
You start to feel the powerlessness come out.
Mm-hmm.
You start to get cagey. The defensiveness is popping up.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, what do? We push through it, right? We
Mm-hmm.
don't actually listen to it, because that might
Right.
be the first smoke break of Thanksgiving. Like,
Straight
you
up.
know, I mean, you never, but these are also the pseudo jokes that happen in our family. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget, there was a family that I spent a lot of Thanksgivings with, and they actually had, like, everyone knew that they smoked weed in the garage. Like, everyone knew that, like, at some point
Yeah.
you go out there and it was like the communal weed garage situation. Like, go ahead, roll yourself one,
Mm-hmm.
enjoy it, come back in, let's try
Mm-hmm.
to keep the party going. Right. But people were literally having that stress release, but it was done through what I would say is probably not the most beneficial way of staying present. Right.
Agreed. Yeah.
But we'll give ourselves permission to do that, but we won't give ourselves a permission to go on a walk. We'll give ourselves
Correct.
permission to do that, but I won't excuse myself from the table.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
To
Like,
go listen to a podcast. Yeah. The bonding over dissociative and maladaptive coping skills runs strong in a lot of family systems. Mm-hmm.
or like the fact that I'll never forget a client that I worked with, it like their defense mechanism was just essentially purging, like
Mm,
oversharing. Like,
mm,
instead of sitting for the conversations they didn't want to have, they just had any conversation that came to mind. But
yeah.
then they always felt exhausted at the end of the day because they overshared. There were
Right.
repercussions based off of what they shared.
Right.
That, it didn't make them feel more present. It made them feel more judged. They felt more guilt. They felt more
Mm,
shame, embarrassment. So these are those situations where you're going to have to choose your heart a little bit. It's going to be difficult either way to navigate this, but one's going to be a moment of, like, sort of empowerment and stepping
right.
into feeling confident on being able to experience certain things in your family
Mm-hmm.
system and walk
Mm-hmm.
away feeling victorious. And the
Mm-hmm.
other is going to be essentially holding on to the status quo. Okay, so wait a second. The times in which we're supposed to actually feel the most joy in spending time together, we should be looking forward to spending time together. If the crux of what we're doing leads us all to feel resentment around the table, why are we doing it?
Out of that family obligation and feeling what Erickson and Carl Jung talk about, the sacrifice of the authentic self in service
Mm-hmm.
of the hope or the actuality or the hope of the acquisition of the love and approval of our
Mm,
parents. So if I think I'm going to get their love, I believe I'm going to get their love, or I actually do, whether it's intermittently reinforced or consistently reinforced, that is, okay, I will sacrifice my authentic self just to feel that, because in
mm,
childhood, it's survival. In adulthood, that's self sacrifice. So, what is survival necessary and required growing up? If we continue that pattern in adulthood, that's typically where maladaptive coping skills in
mm.
the relational sense come from. Of like,
Makes
sometimes
sense.
people pleasing is a way to make it through your family system
Mm,
so you don't get screamed at, because the PTSD of being screamed at, harder to deal with in therapy than I can work out of being a people pleaser, right? And people pleasers started as parent
mm.
pleasers. That's my theory. So,
Oh, yeah.
not only my theory, that is a theory I ascribe to. I will correct myself. When we are working away from these dysfunctional beliefs and patterns, it's something I had to go through, that I think I went leaps and bounds over a lot of the people that
Mm,
I've dated, not just my ex. A lot of the people I've been in partnership with, I was a bit further ahead in some areas of individuation, but I will say a couple of partners, one of them was probably second winner of the most dysfunctional, X being the first. That's a tough tie. Actually, they're tied for most toxic, but he did say good advice at one
talk
point
about
that
a
I think,
contest
right.
no one wants to win.
It's, yeah, if everybody, but if everybody knew, they'd be like, oh God, right? Like, nobody wants that trophy. I didn't even want to be a participant, but there I was. That's more story for another day. I remember, as dysfunctional as his family was, and which is part of the reason why at the time my false belief of how dysfunctional my family was kept me with him, because I was like, well, nobody with a good family system would look at mine and think, and again, a lot of these were irrational beliefs I needed to work through in therapy, and my own self-worth and self-esteem was not high enough or high at all to be able to realize, oh, everybody has shit. I just had this, again, delusional, anxious attachment belief that everybody else is great and I am not, and therefore I need to settle for what's less than, because then I'll be the more functional one. All of it was to safeguard myself from a feeling like an equal relationship. The reason I bring up that is just because it's interesting, but this ex had shared, you can't, which was true, you can't tell your parents everything about the partnership, good and bad, and expect them to still like the partner. You have to be selective of what you share. That's the summary of it, healthily, which is true. If, and this is true of our friends, if we only ever vent about the bullshit, the bad, the this, and we never tell them what might actually also be good in the relationship, and then they hang out with the person and you're all lovey-dovey and they're like, I fucking hate this person. Like, all you've told me is how terrible they are. Why do you like them? That's on us. So we, as an adult, I learned that lesson early when I was young, and I'm of all the lessons I've learned, I'm very appreciative that ex taught me that, because it helped me to not have seasonal age regression, because it's not that I hid things from my parents, but it helped go into an individuation of, we're adults. We're allowed to not share everything with another adult. If I need guidance or counsel, I feel comfortable sharing it with my parents, but I don't need to tell them everything, the way a teenager is like the memes of like, already too late, we can't be friends, I already told my mom everything you did, as that like the final boss of like, we're never getting back together if I tell my parents. That is in part funny, but in part true. People do this as a defense mechanism. I'm going to go back to my parents, I'm going to go back to my family of origin to feel encompassed by them, because this brave journey of trying to break out of that encompassment and go find my own didn't work. So boop, back in the system I go. As you get older, it's not boop, back in the system you go. It's, I'm going to stand my ground as a self. I'm going to visit the system I came from in hopes of a chance at building another, but I'm not going to regress right back into my family system. I'm going to stand my ground, and being at a differing level of individuation from your partner will be so highlighted during these age regressions. So much so. I dealt with that with my most recent ex, and there was still times even just during co-parenting where we were, fucking idiots thinking we could get along, which we can't. And I'd go over there. I can get along far better than he could, I think, in some instances. And I was like, okay, I think I can handle this. It was a few months in. And his dad pulled some shit, and I was like looking at him like, you're really not going to say anything if we're going to be friends at this point? And I was like, all right. I felt 13 in that moment. I felt shamed. I felt whatever else. He and his brother got up and were like, that was awkward. Didn't say it, but looked at him. He and his brother looked at his dad, walked out, left me to fend for myself, which is very characteristic of how the dynamic went. And I was just like, cool. All right. And I just sat there feeling like I had gotten bullied for the next couple of hours, because I was trying to be polite for my daughter to be there and participate, because it's not my job to steal from her or take time from her. And I was generous enough to share it. And I packed up and I was like, texted him, like, if you're wanting to be a friend, no friend treats me that way or allows someone to speak to me that way. You figure it out. And then he happened to do the worst possible thing, which was empathize with his dad and take his dad's perspective, which is something that I begged for him in years to demonstrate in couples therapy. He was able to do, and then did it at the worst possible time, not at me, but towards his own family of origin, further proving the good choice to get divorced, but secondarily proving, okay, you are not ready to leave this toxic system. I was never going to be able to penetrate it. There was never going to be a holiday in which I didn't feel ostracized, bullied, othered. I've done a lot of work. You know that. It didn't matter how much work I did. I felt that age regression, and I don't have to feel that. I don't feel that with my own family of origin. I'm sure as shit not staying in a marriage where I feel that with your family. If they can't do their work to integrate a new person who might be different than they are, but was still trying to be respectful, till the level of disrespect I received was like, okay, you get the other side of me now. This is where the need for this individual work early on in the relationship, 6 months to a year in, way before your first holiday together, will be so telling how the future holidays will go. I firmly believe, a pastor told me this when I was 16, I firmly believe that you should date someone through every holiday, get through an entire calendar year with them, then make a decision how you want to proceed. It will teach you how their family navigates things. How do they navigate conflict? What are they like during the time change? How are they with travel? It's a very good rule to
Mm,
follow. It will also teach you a lot of what we've taught you in today's episode. How do they handle? Do they even notice if they experience seasonal age regression? And they are lying if they say that they don't. That's my belief.
man, just to hear you articulate, I think something that we all feel that we will fight tooth and nail for our own autonomy and our family structures through like individual therapy. But then when we jump into family dynamics with a spouse or a significant other, there's this again pseudo obligation that because I'm tethered to the person, I have to accept the bullshit of their family.
Fuck no. Nope.
I knew I was gonna get the F word was coming out this episode because, but it's
Nope. Yeah.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy that that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm going to stay
I
blindly
think there's
obedient.
ways of
Yeah.
encouraging our significant other. Like, here's where I'll say, when I work with my individual clients who are wrestling up against this, I said, making your spouse and their family your enemy is not helpful in the situation.
Correct.
But actually telling your spouse, like, the reason why I don't join in sometimes in the way that your family over leverages you because I see that you have greater worth.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think like it's difficult to sit around the table. I see this with a lot of my male clients
Mm-hmm.
that will be like, "Oh, my wife is like a shit stirrer," and I'm like, "Oh, I want to know what's going on." And she's like, well, they'll say, oh, I'm at the table, and maybe it can be birth order with males, right? Like the oldest male does no wrong, middle kid gets the crap kicked out of them,
Right.
baby, whatever it is. And well, my spouse will say things that frustrate my family. Oh, what will they say? Like, well, maybe they make off-cuff remarks that aren't necessarily the kindest to me, and my spouse speaks up for me, right? But now I feel emasculated because my spouse is speaking up for me. It's like, well, no, your spouse is just saying, I'm unwilling to let you like sort of sully what I see has value.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And but if only they would just shut up. Like, no. And so let's work this in any other context.
Mm-hmm.
If and this is how a lot of guys will click in and it'll make sense to them. I say, all right, let's just imagine you're a fly on the wall. You see your kid at lunch, and your kid is getting the crap kicked out of them emotionally by words, bullies, all these other things. Are you telling me that you wouldn't step in for your child? At no point you would pop in and be like, oh, what the hell? And they're like, oh yeah, no. And especially it's interesting because men will align a lot with like their daughters. Like if my daughter was being mistreated, boom, they're there. You know,
but if my wife were, screw her. The weird double standard, honestly, like, do you not see women as women till you have a daughter? Like, and sometimes that doesn't even help men click in. I will refrain, but yes, I wanted to add in.
I love how
I hope that helps.
Oh, bam. All right. Seasonal regression
that helps you
is
see
here.
Women as humans worth respecting, but it should maybe happen before you have a daughter. Like, you don't have to wait. That's what I will add.
Agreed.
And I have to just say one more thing. If the reason why you don't respect women as women, then this is the weird paradox of you'll have your mom's back. So the mother-in-law dynamic, you'll have your mom's back, but not your wife's back, but then your daughter's back, and you still think your wife's going to want to fuck you? No. If you're married to your mom, I'm not going to be interested in that. And then if you pedestalize the daughter and still treat me like shit, do you think that what is she going to learn? She's not going to learn by what you're doing to her. She's going to learn by what you're doing to your wife. And that's the other downside is they won't step in and say something and they'll let their wife or spouse get bulldozed. I've seen the opposite of what you're saying. The spouse speaks up for the other spouse, or the spouse is looking at the spouse like, can you have my back? And they go, no, thanks. That would cost me my role in my family system. You can suffer alone. That's where couples need therapy. And this comes out around the holidays, especially if there's substance use involved.
Oh, absolutely. So I like your caveat there. I would also say it exists without substance abuse as well. Like there's just
absolutely
this is that awkward moment where again, the life that we're building together, there's a level of intrusion that we're going to allow where people can talk down about where we live, where we send the kids, what we do as a family. And we're all supposed to laugh around the table and be like, well, that's just how they are, right? Like That actually doesn't make sense when we come up to the 50,000 foot level and look at it and go, wait a second. So you're upset that your wife won't allow other people to talk down to you because she respects you,
Mm,
sees you for the role that you're playing in her
mhm,
family,
mhm, mhm,
and you're upset because she won't just let other people treat you like shit.
mm,
Like, that's a whole new level of individual therapy that you need to get into, because you're
mhm,
literally upset at the person who is your greatest ally or advocate in the family
mhm,
system you're navigating.
And the couples I see, it's the offshoot of that. It's not to say that the spouse doesn't have the other spouse's back, as you're describing. It's
Mm,
I'm the spouse who is the only one who has my back. My spouse does not have my back. So there's the dynamic of my spouse has my back and that makes me feel emasculated or uncomfortable. How do I handle it? And there's the other spouse dynamic of you're really not going to say anything to your family. Like the calling out is at the new partner, not at the family member who's of
mhm,
like an established family. It's like the new one trying to join. And it's like this weird baptism by fire where it's like, I don't want to be gently bullied as a way of being included in this family system. And if I see something, I'm going to say something. And you might not like what I have to say,
mm,
but guess what? It doesn't make it less true. I literally do this day in and day out for my job. I can sniff out dysfunction like it's nobody's business. Like I'm a drug dog for it. I'm not going to stay quiet about it. And that's where I think there's a disconnect with a lot of partnerships if we're at different stages of that, and the spouse who sees it is bringing it to the spouse who doesn't or chooses not to, and they go,
mm,
you know what, you're right, I'd rather not lose our marriage to stay married to my family of origin. I'll do what you say. And they can restructure. Family systems can restructure. You can overcome age regression or lack of individuation. It's difficult when only one partner out of a dyad is spearheading, can we, and the one goes, maybe you do it, maybe it's easier if you do it. Of course it's easier if just you don't have to do the work and change. You won't stay as a family system and build a new system if you don't up your game and then defend you and your partnership. To your point, we are a unit now. Once we're
mm,
married, especially and have kids, we're the new family system. We, us, it is our job, it's our responsibility as those parents or that couple to defend against both families of origin and also integrate with both families of origin, however is the healthiest. If you aren't aligned in the dyad, you can't do what I just described. It starts with the two of you being able, starts with you as an individual and the two of you being able to go, I have your back. Do you have my
mm.
back? Or am I the only one who has my back? Because if I'm the only one who has my back, after so long, I don't care to have your back. It becomes petty, right? You didn't do it for me. Why would I do it for you?
There's absolutely no
Yeah.
upside to it, right?
No,
And at
there's no
that
win.
point, you're just like, it's
At that
almost like,
point, what the system looks like is what it does when you're divorced and co-parenting, because now my kid is going to look at our
mm,
systems and go, this makes sense why my parents do not spend time together, cannot spend time together. I don't know what she hears when she's over at his house. We do a very actually good job of not saying anything negative. We always make it factual and in a positive tone. You
mm,
get to see, list the family members. It's not hyperbolic, it's not descriptive, it's literally just listing who she gets to see, and if she wants to share, how did it go? Who'd you get to see? That's what the parenting therapist said. I don't know what goes on over there, but for her, she will grow up understanding,
mm,
oh, my parents aren't together, which makes sense. They don't get along, versus kids who grew up in toxic dysfunction, which we deal with all the time, personally and professionally. That system of
yep.
like, but if we're family, why do we do this? Oh, well, we're an exception to the rule. And
Mm,
it's very cut and dry. My hope is for her, we don't get along. There was not respect between your dad and I
yeah.
as parents and as partners. Therefore, we have to be parents for the rest of your life. We don't have to be partners. I'm not going to model that for you. I have a better chance of going and finding a
Mm,
partner who will respect me and I will respect them. And that's the model I want you to take, is what partnership looks like. I'll always have to co-parent till she's 18 with him. That's an unfortunate necessary evil that I have to deal with. But for her, it will be compartmentalized. They don't spend time together and
mm.
they don't interact in a way, rather than her growing up seeing me sit there, take shit from his family or snap at them and them just be quiet. She doesn't need to grow up in that. She's
Well,
not
that,
going
and
to have to grow
you
up in
don't
that.
want to recruit her into that level
No, no,
of dysfunction.
no. I can only guard what I can guard. I can only control what I can control. And teaching her the therapy skills from a young age and identifying what's healthy and unhealthy, what's safe and unsafe, and teaching her from this young age,
Mm,
hopefully prevents too much seasonal age regression or feeling this split of, I have to pick whichever parent. No, you can, it's not about a choice. It's not either or. It's a both and dynamic.
mm,
But when it comes to extended family, then it can be an either or. You could have a preference of which family you'd rather be around. And that's my one of my like final notes I'll leave listeners with. When you experience this and you grew up in a family where you couldn't wait to like not be around your family at the holidays, or the holidays were the only time that you got along, please do some introspection, whether you came from an intact family or a family
mm,
that split or a family that was intact but wish they split. Those are kind of the three categories, right? Like, my parents should have gotten divorced but didn't. They did get divorced and maybe they could have stuck it out, or it's like, God, this is just so toxic, I can't deal with it. Do some of your own inner work. At what age did holidays start becoming what you are
mm,
dreading going into it, and what age do you regress to, so that you can get ahead of it and again stay in your individual self as much as you can. Please seek individual or couples therapy or family therapy if your system can tolerate or afford it,
mm,
monetarily or otherwise. It's some of the best work you can do for yourself, because then you don't dread these events. You then go into it knowing how to manage your energy, and you don't have to be derailed for months afterwards, which how many people do we see email in January? I thought I could do it, but then I was around my family and I lost my shit, right? You don't have to get to that point if you prevent it. Early intervention is the best kind of intervention. That's all
I
I'll
mean,
say.
just to tag on to just what you're saying, and I think you said it in different words, but I think this is how I conceptualize it. You're not broken. You're just visiting old emotional codes. So, like,
100%.
when you walk away and maybe you're gonna say, I didn't have every conversation I wanted to have, or there were moments where I felt like I wasn't experienced how I wanted to be experienced.
Yeah.
Like, let's count the little victories and the big victories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like, if we didn't actually get down to a yelling screaming match over Thanksgiving or Christmas, maybe that is our success, right? Maybe it's the fact that we were able to get through the experience without passive aggressive communication. Maybe there's like,
Right.
you know, that's where we're focused on, is how we're experienced. Not
Mm-hmm.
everyone else. Can't control everyone else, but we can control what is the experience that you want to have. And I know that I've said it in previous episodes, but I'll tell you, one of the greatest things that'll help you in this process is also just setting timelines. You
Mm-hmm.
know, being able to like, because there can be so many different passive aggressive communications that can happen, of like,
Yeah.
oh well, so what time's dinner, or whatever it is. Oh, we're gonna eat at 2:30, then we'll open presents and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, there was a time where we showed up. We had been told very specifically when the meal was going to be. The meal wasn't served for 5 hours after that. Like it, but again, there's a process there where that's not our fault. You said that, oh, I didn't realize the bird was going to take that much, or that the prairie mermaid was going to take that long, or like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I I agree. I'm bummed. I wish I could have it with you,
Yeah.
but we've got to move on. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Our
sorry.
time. Our
It's
time to
like,
go.
where
Mm-hmm.
other times, without having that timeline in place, you feel like you're obligated for the whole kit and caboodle.
Yes, it's the one of my mentors calls it the pumpkin hour, like Cinderella. Everybody has their own limit that they hit of socialization with or notwithstanding certain family members. It's like, no matter who, it could be my most close loved ones. Sometimes people just hit an energetic limit of extroverting and being around others, and holidays can really drain you.
Mm,
Whenever you don't have to say yes, say no. Like, just say yes to yourself. Every no to someone else can be a yes to yourself if you manage your energy properly. Set it up ahead of time. We would love to come. We're going to have to leave at 2 o'clock because we do have other commitments. Is that still okay? If not, we will skip it. I don't want to be disruptive. Very effective way, no matter what angle, I'm covered. And then the person receiving it also doesn't engage in passive aggression or guilt.
mm,
This is where assertive communication is what I love in my specialty. I'm asking as a request, but I already am going to pitch how I'm going to care for myself if you say no to my request, because a request is a request. It's not a demand or a guarantee. A demand or a guarantee is, we're doing this or else, like an ultimatum almost. Those are still nuanced, but
mm.
is that all right if we leave at 2 is much different than we will be leaving at 2. If that doesn't work for you, here's what we'll do. If that does work for you, what can we bring? I'm leaving it 2 either way. You can't say yes or no. I'm letting you know this is it's forced choice. I'm letting you know this is what's happening. And if that's too disruptive, please let me know and I'll take it elsewhere. Learning how to be okay with disappointing others is one of the best things I've ever learned. You might not agree if you're my ex listening to this, but I'm proud of myself.
So yes, here's a takeaway of the podcast. The individuals will feel empowered. The systems will feel frustrated. And that's also something that we have to just bring into the process. You're going to look around and be like, why did my siblings leave me? Why is no one backing me up? Why? Because at some point the system doesn't want to change.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
Big takeaway here, though, is step into your empowerment. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of ways that you can navigate this. Yes. You don't have to be the 31-year-old that turns into 13-year-old.
Mm-hmm. So 30 going on 13. Yeah.
Yeah. Make it happen.
Yes. Please. Yes. Do your own work. Go to therapy. Limit your alcohol consumption or other drugs around this time of year. Get your sleep. Practice your self-care. And we'll see you in a couple weeks for yet another holiday episode to close us out for the year.
See you guys.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Between Two Clinicians. We would so appreciate if this episode resonated with you, for you to share it with somebody, and also find your favorite podcast platform and like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast. We would love to attract more listeners just like you and have this message be spread to whoever needs it. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.